From one Leagues Cup team that made us believe to another one, it's Philadelphia.
He's got the podcasting down already, so I'm saying, Dax, when you coming in here, man, we got a seat for you.
Jill, you're not going to read my sign first? I got the first answer.
I'm not reading that. That is.
Good afternoon to you, Sasha, too.
That is so inappropriate for the start of our segment. Sasha, you get an F. This is MLS, and it is that time of year, the race to the postseason, and who better to break it all down for you than two-time MLS Cup finalist Kalen Carr. Don't leave me hanging.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were
You're doing that on purpose. And two guys that lifted the 2015 Supporters Shield together in Sasha Kleshton and Bradley Wright Phillips. I have 3 Supporter Shields.
Wow.
You sure
How many do you have, Sash?
Wow.
How many do you have, Sash?
How many Belgian Pro League titles do you have, Brad?
Nah, I want to be caught dead over there.
All right, well, you know, if there's no I in team, Bradley, there's no I in team.
You're right.
In the Supporter Shield race, we have not seen a race like this in quite some time. Inter Miami with a 5-point lead, but a handful of elite teams in the hunt. Brad, one of those that you won, it was 2018, arguably the best Supporter Shield race in league history. Bradley, where does 2024 rank?
Well, 2018 was amazing, but this 2024 is 100 times better. I think with 4 teams in it, 4 teams that all have a possibility of winning it too, it just makes it so much fun. Like each week, my opinion changes who might win it, who's looking strong. We've got a great game coming up with Cincy against Miami. That one's gonna, you know, there's a lot of ramifications on what happens in this Supporters Shield. So for me, by far the best.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with that. For me, the Supporter Shield is something that's only grown with importance over time, and I always would be the one to say pretty quickly, this doesn't really matter that much. It's MLS Cup is the one that you want. I know, sorry, Brad, I know 3 of them. You would trade one, though, wouldn't you, for one MLS Cup, maybe?
Nah, I grew up just trying to win the league. That's how I grew up, man.
Okay, respect. But I think it's changing a little bit as far as the importance goes. And I think it's increasingly become tied to getting home field advantage, going through the playoffs, and to be able to host MLS Cup finals. So that's why I think this is so much more important now. And the fact that we have so many teams in the running still, I do think Inter Miami is clearly in the driver's seat, which is impressive to say without Lionel Messi in the lineup. But I think there's still a number of teams that can do it. And for me, the team that I think fell off a little bit but is set to climb a little bit back is FC Cincinnati. That's the one team for me that I'm keeping an eye on. But the fact that the Crew are even in the conversation with what they've had to go through so many different competitions this season speaks to Wilfried Nancy and the way they've built that roster as well.
I agree with both of you guys. Bradley, we know the Supporter Shield is the truth. It's the true champion of the season. And you see that every team that's in it right now has the utmost respect for the Supporter Shield. But I also agree with you, Kalen. It's because of home field advantage, and teams are seeing how important that is in the MLS Cup playoffs. So this is the best Supporter Shield race we've ever seen in MLS history.
Hey, and one more thing. Sorry, Jill.
Go ahead.
If Inter Miami and Messi win it, we're going to start getting some real Supporter Shield love. Then people will start putting some respect on it. I promise you.
Speaking of Inter Miami, number 1 taking on number 2 FC Cincinnati this weekend in what could be an Eastern Conference Championship preview. These two teams jam tight with quality in the attack, points at 53 for Inter Miami and 48 for FC Cincinnati. But Inter Miami could be without Lionel Messi, who has not stepped on the field since the Copa America final when he left with an ankle injury. We saw the September World Cup qualifier roster announced Messi not on there for Argentina, so we don't know the extent of his injury. Sasha, how much of Miami running away with the Supporter Shield race hinges on Lionel Messi?
I'm not sure, because they've defied all the expectations all season. Every time we thought that Miami would take a dip when Messi was out injured or when Suarez went to the Copa America, the young players have just continued to step up. And that's been Diego Gomez, that's been Redondo. Rojas is not a young player, but he's a massive piece of the attack. Listen, if Diego Gomez does make a transfer to the English Premier League like he's been reported to, that's going to be a massive loss for Inter Miami. But they've got players that'll step up. Kremoski will probably step into that starting role if Gomez leaves. They have depth, they have the deepest roster in Major League Soccer, and then when Messi does get back, you got to believe that they're going to continue to push forward.
that gives them a little bit of patience and time to make sure that Messi is right when he does come back. And that's a scary sight. I think once you think of knockouts, that top-end quality and that difference maker to come through in the clutch, as we've seen time and time again from Messi, even in his time with Inter Miami. And that's maybe the one piece that they were missing in Leagues Cup to really make the difference to go all the way. But I think in this case, they're going to be patient with him because they've been so good without him. I believe 10 wins this season without Messi. So you add him back into the mix towards that stretch run, and that could get scary.
I think we've got to start giving them credit now. I know we always do, but we've got to give Tata and this Inter Miami side credit. We keep talking about if Messi's not there, can they do this? Can they get here? They've proven to us week in, week out that they can win games and still be 5 points clear or 4 points clear in the Supporters' Shield race. This is a proper team with, like Sash said, some very good young players and a bona fide goal scorer in Luis Suarez.
Inter Miami, the only team averaging more than 2 points per game at 2.12. As for FC Cincinnati, they are looking to repeat as Supporters' Shield winners. The last team to do it was the LA Galaxy more than a decade ago. Brad, what's it going to take for Cincy?
I wasn't sure before. I thought they were out of it, but Kaylin, you alluded to it. It was a centre-back signing for me of Awaziem. I think that was huge. I've only seen him make one blunder so far. I know it's been a short stay so far, but he's been brilliant. I saw a game where he's completely demanding, controlling, talking at the back, and I think he's got a really big 9 games left for the season. And then Giacchini up top, he'll bring you some goals. We saw that with St. Louis, so I think Cincinnati are looking in good shape.
How much that's going to come down to the Stars, though, Kaylin?
I think the Stars, in this case, might be with Cincinnati. And that's all due respect, of course, to Suarez and Jordi Alba, who were not there in that last match between these two teams just about a month ago when, by the way, Cincinnati ran them off the pitch 6-1 at home. But Lucho Acosta, I mean, he is the reigning MVP. Nobody has ever gone back-to-back to win MVP in MLS history. And if they go on and win the Supporters' Shield, and I think they need to win this match to really have a legit chance to do that, Lucho could be making history right now this season. His health has been a little bit of a question mark, but they rested him a little bit in Leagues Cup. And then the other difference maker on the other side, right next to him as a twin 10, is the other Argentine in Orellano, who has just been fantastic this season, only getting stronger. So the two of them paired in the middle, going right against the heart of that Inter Miami side, can cause problems for them. And we saw Miami defensively a little bit weak, with Weigand on one side and Jordi Alba not so much a defender, more known for his attacking ability. So I think there's some areas for Cincinnati to pick them apart. But I think Inter Miami is going to remember that 6-1 loss, that rivalry that's there. You're not going to forget that. I don't care who was missing. Busquets got a red card. He was playing a center back position, but it was 5-1 in the 60th minute. So I'd expect Tata and Inter Miami to come back and be prepared for this one, looking to make a statement because that hurts. That one stings.
Does Miami win it on Saturday?
I give them the edge in this one, but I think the desperation from Cincinnati, if they do want to win the Supporters' Shield, this is a 6-point swing. So they have to push up as well as push them down. So being out of Leagues Cup, I think, allows them a little bit more time to get Lucho healthy and be raring to go to try to steal this one on the road here.
Who you guys got on Saturday?
I got Miami. But in order for FC Cincinnati to win anything this year, I don't even think it's going to start falling on Lucho Acosta. For me, it's Miles Robinson. The defense has to be better. They have to get back to the way that they were doing things last season, which was being very hard to play against, not giving up a lot of chances and winning 1-0 games. They've given up too many goals. If they can shore things up defensively, then they've got a chance.
I think I got Inter Miami too. I'll keep it short, but yeah, Inter Miami.
Let's head out west with the conference-leading LA Galaxy hosting Atlanta United. 50 goals on the season, thanks to the prowess of what we're calling the 3 Ps in Puig, Peck, and Paintsill. If Miami is the best attack in MLS, Sasha, where do the Galaxy rank?
Galaxy have a top 4 attack for me. You mentioned Miami. I believe the Columbus Crew front 3. And LAFC's front 3. Those 4 teams have the best attack. Now, no surprise, those 4 teams are all in the hunt for the Supporters' Shield and are all 4 of the best teams in Major League Soccer. Galaxy did a really good job of going out in the offseason, getting Peck and Paintsill to add to Ricky Puig. You have Dejan Joveljic up front, and now Marco Reus comes in, who's not even a player I think the Galaxy need, but he has so much quality to add to that final third. that he will come in, he'll be a depth piece, and he will make a difference in that game. But Peck and Paintsill are so dangerous right now. They're both in the zone, they're both feeling confident, and their connection with Ricky Pooch has been on another level. Galaxy has one of the best attacks in the league for sure.
Sash, you're talking about Marco Reus. I love that Galaxy have brought in a bona fide winner. This is a man that's won in Germany, he's won trophies. So you add that to the global awareness he's going to bring. Now, for the league, we get eyes on our league just for that reason. I think this is a good signing for that reason also. But 156 goals, we might talk about Galaxy not really needing another attacker. Jovic is injured. So if you're bringing 156 goals, a goal-scoring ability in this stretch, this rundown to the Supporters' Shield, you've got yourself a really good signing and someone with experience.
So
I got to make one point on the Galaxy, sorry. The biggest question for me going down the stretch for the LA Galaxy is who's going to start in center midfield along Marky Delgado. For most of the season, it's been Edwin Cerrillo because Gaston Brugman has been hurt. And in the moments that Brugman has played, I think the Galaxy has looked worse. I think the Galaxy is better with Edwin Cerrillo on the field. So Greg Vanney's going to have a big decision to make as the season plays on. Does he keep his high-priced midfielder Brugman on the bench, or does he throw him back in the lineup? Galaxy's better with Cerrillo, in my opinion.
I'd have to agree with that, Sasha, and I think a part of that is because sometimes it's that balance, that hinge, where when you lose the ball, what's that reaction look like, and who's there defensively with an eye on that rest defense? And that's where we've seen them let themselves down a little bit. And as you add more dynamic pieces with Royce and these interchangeable front four or five, depending on how they play it, that can actually put more pressure defensively. So that's where I start to look and say some question marks emerge for me with the Galaxy of what happens when they lose the ball. For me, not pressing so high, maybe playing a little bit more of a mid-block or not being so adventurous moving forward, because when they get stretched, that's where they get really hurt in transition.
One team that has been a question mark really all season with high expectations is Atlanta United. Sasha, they have 9 games to go. 6 of those are against playoff contenders. Do Atlanta United make the playoffs?
No. I think that's a plain and simple no for me. They didn't do enough in the transfer market. I love the signing of Alexei Miranchuk. I think he's an unbelievable chance creator, but I don't know who he's going to create all these chances for. They had big money to spend after the sale of Thiago Almada and Yorgos Giacomakis, and they need a number 9. They absolutely do not have somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net at a regular clip. So some patience is needed amongst the fans in Atlanta to realize that this season ain't it. And I do have some respect for them for not going out and just signing anybody and handcuffing themselves. I do expect them to be very aggressive after this season, going after big-time number 9 to play alongside Miranchuk next season.
There was some big news coming out of Atlanta United this week. 37-year-old MLS veteran Dax McCarty announcing his retirement. And of course, he did it in all class and a little bit of fun.
My wife asked me the other day if I was getting love handles.
Love handles?
Yeah.
No.
And that's when I figured, all right, it's probably time. After lots of thought and reflection, it is with an immense amount of pride and gratitude that I'm announcing my retirement at the end of the 2024 season.
McCarty's 381 MLS appearances are 3rd in Major League Soccer, a longtime teammate of Sasha Kleshton's and Bradley Wright Phillips. Brad, what should people know about Dax?
That he's always had love handles. I don't know why he's acting like
That's what I'm saying. He's a liar.
I don't know why he's always acting like he's just arrived, these love handles. But honestly, Dax, I've told this story a few times. I remember coming to America and being very ignorant and arrogant to the American style of football and MLS play. And I get to training and I see Dax McCarty. And you got to remember, there's Thierry Henry there, Tim Cahill, Peggy Lou, and Dulak ballers. And Dax is the one in the beginning that caught my eye because I just didn't think players here had the ability to lead a game, set the rhythm, first touch, passing, and then vocal lead out on the pitch. He was unbelievable, but really genuinely the first American player I respected after playing with them. Quality player.
Sash?
Dax is great. Look, so much respect for Dax McCarty and his career, the longevity, the trophies, just an all-around great guy, great teammate. My biggest compliment to Dax is that he made me better as a player when we played alongside each other at the New York Red Bulls. He always was looking to find me between the lines with those line-splitting passes, breaking up plays. getting the ball to the attacking players with time and space, such an underrated thing, such a fantastic player. And for a little guy, so good in the box on headers, scored from so many set pieces. Love you, Dax. Congratulations on a fantastic career. And I'm very excited for him that he announced it now so he gets to enjoy these last 9-10 games and get the love that he deserves.
Love it. Yeah, no, Dax, the longevity. Sasha, we're class of 2006 in the draft. Came in the same class as Dax, and Kai Kamara also on that list, still playing. So, but the fact that, I mean, to me, he's made every team he's been on better. Immediately elevated the ceiling of the teams he's been on, a consummate winner and great professional. He's got the podcasting down already, so I'm saying, Dax, when you're coming in here, man, we got a seat for you, man. So, no, but congratulations, man. Enjoy this last stretch, and it's been a fantastic career.
My favorite thing about Dax McCarty is the amount of teams that he has captained in Major League Soccer, from Chicago to Nashville to the New York Red Bulls. You know, that is the type of player that is the locker room guy, but then, like Bradley says, he's the guy on the pitch too. So all the best to Dax. We know we'll see you around too, but always class on and off the field, and we appreciate you. Let's talk about Real Salt Lake as we stay out west. RSL kind of in that Supporter Shield conversation, especially now that they've got their Golden Boot leader, Chicho Arango, back. He was suspended 4 games for violating the league's anti-harassment policy. How realistic is a Supporter Shield run for RSL, Brad?
I'll be honest with you. I think it depends on the form of the teams ahead of them. Yes, they have the ability. Yes, they have the players. We've seen young players like Luna and Nelly in midfield. They're brilliant. And now they get Arango back. This is a bona fide and certified goal scorer. But for them to really win the Supporter Shield now, for me, they're going to have to rely on other teams to drop points.
And as for San Jose, they'll be going up against this weekend, 14th in the Western Conference. So there's really no big playoff Supporter Shield conversation for the Quakes. But, Caitlin, they did have a good Leagues Cup. What will it take for the Quakes on Saturday to take down RSL?
Well, that Leagues Cup, I think, will give them some momentum and a little bit of belief. And that result against Necaxa was tremendous. Put 5 goals on the board. Hernan Lopez was tremendous, has raised the ceiling of the players around him. And at times, you could see how this attack especially can be humming. But then they ran into the buzzsaw, that is LAFC. And, you know, I think they have a chance, at least against this Salt Lake team, coming off that result and feeling some positivity. But the bigger question for me is, what is this club doing overall to develop young players? And this match especially, Diego Luna, a former San Jose Earthquakes Academy player, now starring for Real Salt Lake. It's just, you know, the Academy hasn't gotten enough done so far to be able to bring these players in. Barajas as well was sold to Chivas, also another former Quakes Academy player that went to Real Salt Lake. So I think, are they going to manage, as you mentioned, being lower in the table and maybe bleed in some young players, or are they going to fight for every result, every point possible with Ian Russell? So I think they have to strike that balance a little bit, but long-term, commit to the youth players.
RSL in San Jose, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time on MLS Season Pass. The next 2 months are make or break for so many teams, including Orlando City and Sporting Kansas City, who face off this Saturday at Inter & Co Stadium. Sasha, Orlando has been playing arguably their best soccer of the year, 5 straight unbeaten, 4 of those wins. Can we finally call the Lions the real deal?
I don't know about the real deal because the teams in the East are much stronger than them, in my opinion. But they have gone back to what had made them good last season, and it's not really a magic formula for Oscar Pereira. It's just going back to a 4-2-3-1 with 2 really good center midfielders in Cartagena and Araujo, who are doing a good job of shielding the back line, and then putting their best attackers into positions to succeed. Facundo Torres has been playing at the highest level. Ojeda has been playing at a high level. Duncan Maguire just signed a new contract, so he'll be at ease. I think the team is good, not great, but they've had a much better run of form over the last couple of months compared to what we saw at the beginning of the season. Maybe in the playoffs they can make some noise.
Sasha, they look like the 2023 Orlando. They're a team now that don't shoot themselves in the foot. And you mentioned the attack. The attack now has to be respected. Enrique, Facundo, all of these guys are looking sharp. They're getting some really good production out of those strikers. The thing for me that's important for Orlando is that 5 of their last, I think, 9 games are at home. So they're going to be a team that's again, they're not going to win MLS Cup. They're not winning Supporters Shield, obviously. But they're a team in this form you don't want to see in the playoffs. When you need a win, you don't want to see Orlando.
Yeah, I give credit to Oscar Perea for that. And we've seen his teams do well in knockout formats, in tournament play, won the U.S. Open Cup in the past, and then at least has made it difficult in MLS Cup playoffs in the past. So I think rounding into form, yes, they haven't played maybe the best competition, but as you come down this home stretch, they just got to be a player in this position. And then you think of the top-end talent. Sometimes you have Facu Torres, you have Duncan McGuire. That's not a lineup you want to face again. So I agree. I think this team, while not in that elite tier in the East, can make some noise in the playoffs.
SKC, Brad, yet again, on the outside looking in. We saw what they did last year of making that run into the playoffs. Is this a team that deserves to have a run again?
No, they haven't done enough this season. I think the older players, while I'm big fans of players like Johnny Russell, Shalawi, Pulido, the production isn't there. They're hardly ever on the pitch. I think the first time they were on the pitch together was recently in the League's Cup. They don't have enough. The bright spot for me is Agada up front. He's come on. Whenever he's got his chances, he's scored goals. But this team, even if they get to the playoffs, for me, what's the point? They're not going to do anything. Not good enough this year.
SKC currently sitting 12th in the Western Conference. You've got Orlando City in 7th place, and then the New York Red Bulls in 4th, Charlotte in 6th, and that's our next matchup come this weekend. And Charlotte FC can thank their back line for their spot in the table. Second best defense in the league, just behind the Columbus Crew, allowing just 27 goals on the season. Kalen now with center back Tim Ream coming over from Fulham. How much better does this side get?
I think it's a level up for sure. And Tim Ream with his experience and coming back to MLS, I think it's going to be huge for them. And not just defensively, because that's already solid, but it's what he can do with the ball at his feet, distributing out of the back. And they could potentially play with Privet and Malanda, the three of them, or maybe push Privet up into a more advanced position. And they needed to go out and continue to add into the attack. They took a couple big swings trying to get Miguel Almiron. Didn't quite end up happening. They did get Pep Biel, 27-year-old Spanish player coming back or coming to MLS now to add to the attack. So that's a nice piece, but it also doesn't hamstring them. I believe he's just on loan to the end of the season. So that's important to be able to now add something moving forward. But I think if you have the foundation, which they already have, you add these pieces is only going to level their ceiling up a bit.
The New York Red Bulls have been hot and cold all year, despite the fact that they're 4th place in the Eastern Conference. Sasha, how do the Red Bulls get hot again? Their last back-to-back wins came June 1st.
Well, getting hot again is just relying on what has got them here, which is the system of play, energy, efficiency, and defending well. Listen, I was excited for this New York Red Bulls team to add some pieces to the attack to push this team over the edge to at least be a contender in the East in the playoffs. And they went out and got a DP number 6. Is that the solution? No, I don't think so. This is a playoff team and nothing more. They're good, not great.
I think in terms of the Red Bulls getting hot again, listen, we all know their philosophy is going to cause every team problems. They're always going to be in a game. They're always going to compete. But in terms of getting hot again, it's the return of Emil Forsberg and then now Lewis Morgan that is here, not at the European Championships. He's here now. This is a player that's got 12 goals and I want to say 18 starts. So they have a goal scorer. They just need that creative part in the attacking third in Emil Forsberg. But that would lead to them being hot again.
Up north, Montreal taking on New England, where every single point counts for these teams that are going to have to scratch and claw their way into the postseason. It's unlikely that we see both of these clubs in the playoffs come October. Kalen, who do you have between New England and Montreal?
Well, that's why I like this matchup, is there's that little bit of desperation going on. And I think both teams have really tried to remake themselves on the fly this season. So many changes from both managers. And I think that's the challenge for me. I think from Montreal's perspective, they brought in Shaquille Marshall-Rutty, Tom Pierce. I think those will add strength to the wing positions. But then Mathieu Chouanière is reportedly going to be moving to Switzerland. So I just can't quite ever put a finger on who this team is, what their identity is, how they're going to change mid-season. So I have more questions for them, where at least for me, I can see New England moving in a more coherent direction.
Well, when we look at New England, Kalen, we've seen a team that showed some fight in the League's Cup. Now what I want to see from them is them use that momentum and bring that into MLS regular season. They'll have Carlos Hill to come back, a new signing in Langoni, who looks very bright and decent in the attacking third. the tough thing for them, if we're even talking as far as playoffs, they've got 2 home games in the next 5. New England's strength is when they play at home because it's a tough place to play at. So for them to have any chance, I think they're going to need to get 7 to 8 points out of the next 5 games. And that's a tough ask. But bring that momentum from Leagues Cup, and they should be a better team to watch at least.
Sasha, who's more poised to be in the postseason?
I think New England. I think they still have more quality on the roster. I like the additions of Tim Parker in the back. Excited to see Langoni, the winger that's come from Argentina. And Carlos Hill has been unhealthy for most of this season. And when he's at his best, he's one of the best number 10s in the league. So a team built around Carlos Hill, I'll take that every time.
New York City FC stock continues to go up. We were talking about at the beginning of the year, is Nick Cushing on the hot seat to start the year? Now they have an impressive run in Leagues Cup. They fall in the quarterfinals to the Columbus Crew. Sasha, how much did New York City stock go up?
The stock has gone up, Jill, but it's reached a plateau. And the reason for that is they don't have a striker that they can depend on. Munsef Bakrar has played, Jovan Mijatovic has played, Alonso Martinez has played. None of them have taken the reins and said, I'm the number 9, I'm the guy that's going to get you goals. So as good as New York City's run in Leagues Cup was, they're just like the other team in New York. Good, not great, and a playoff team. That's it.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to consistency. Sometimes we see New York City FC and we're like, wow, this is one of the best teams in the league because they play a lovely side of football. They build out from the back. They have exciting players on the ball. But to Sasha's point, when they get to that 18-yard box, can that striker be consistent? I look at Martinez. He's the one that showed some kind of consistency in little patches. If he can do that for the remainder of the season, then they're a team that is always going to cause problems because they're hard to deal with, hard to keep contained with some talented players in the final third.
Caitlin, you'll be on the call for New York City and Chicago. What are you keeping your eyes on in this one?
I think New York City have the clear edge, and Chicago, it's really been an interesting window for them. Shaqiri had all the goodbye videos going through social media, but was one of the biggest failures, for me, the worst signing in Chicago Fire history, and did not live up to the standard of the number 10s that have come through there before. Cuauhtemoc Blanco, designated players, Peter Novak. So for me, to get rid of your DP mid-season and say goodbye and then say that's a positive tells you everything you need to know about where the Chicago Fire have been. George Heights now will be leaving after the season, their sporting director as well. So it's kind of like a reboot in a way. They have some young talent. That's a positive. But I give New York City, I think, the edge in this one, coming off a good Leagues Cup run and much more on the ascendancy.
New York City and the Chicago Fire face off 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on MLS Season Pass. It's that time of the show, buying or selling. We've talked about the top teams in the Western Conference in the LA Galaxy, LAFC, and Real Salt Lake. Well, let's talk a little bit about those teams that are right on the bubble. Minnesota United and the Seattle Sounders, just 1 point separating these two sides, and they face off this weekend at Allianz Field. So, to talk about that, we've got Kaylin Carr and Matt Doyle. So, Kaylin, get ready to open up that fat wallet of yours when Matt Doyle gives you the numbers. Doyle, go for it.
Yeah, we'll start with Minnesota. Our number is 14.2%. That is a percentage of Minnesota's total passes that are long balls this season, which is 5th highest mark in the league. And frankly, I don't think Eric Ramsey wants to play that way. And I suspect that as the Loons work their new acquisitions into the lineup, we'll start to see them actually play a little bit more small ball, build from the back a little bit, and look a bit more modern. It'll be a work in progress, and I expect there to be some growing pains. Worth it in the long run, though, I think.
I'll buy that. I think the growing pains part especially, and that's kind of what's happened to Minnesota, who got off to such a bright start to the season and then kind of tanked. And a big part of that was losing some important pieces. Oluwaseyi being gone to the national team, Dane St. Clair. And then the long balls, for me, really comes down to no Reynoso, who they haven't replaced. So if you don't have Reynoso, and you have these other pieces like Hlongwane or even Teemu Pukki when they like balls in space. So that's kind of just the way I think Ramsey's being forced to play. But once they make that signing to give them that maybe number 10 going forward, but so far that hasn't happened.
I was a little disappointed they didn't end up coming out of that transfer window with a number 6, a guy who could run the show from central midfield. That's the guy who would really cut down on the number of long balls for them. Went hard after one in the transfer window. Didn't get one. Hopefully that's something that happens for them in the winter. But yeah, the other team that taken apart in this game, Seattle Sounders. Our number is 0.29. That's Seattle's expected assist total for the entire year on passes following a successful 1v1 in the attacking third. That's 28th in the league, and it's exactly what they went out and spent $6 million last winter to get Pedro de la Vega for. He's the guy who can beat a defender off the one via 1v1, take all that possession that they generate in central midfield and turn it into high-value chances in the attacking third. If they're going to have any shot at winning a trophy this season, they're 8th place right now. If they're going to have any shot at winning a trophy this season, they need to get this guy healthy, get on the field, and start beating guys off the dribble. Turn that dominance into actual chances and actual goals.
I'm selling this one only because
You're selling his health?
Well, I just didn't understand where it says.
I mean, he's smart too, from what we've seen so far from Pedro de la Vega.
That is definitely true, but more just because it's passes off of a 1v1, so it's after you beat somebody.
Yeah.
But you got to beat somebody first, and that really hasn't been happening. I think De La Vega's been a big part of that, but I think they need to adjust a little bit to not be so open. And we talked about Minnesota's long balls. Long balls are what killed them against LAFC, so changing maybe the tactics a bit to be a little bit deeper, to not be so open and not allow these balls in behind. Defensive is really where I see more of the problem than that final attacking third, because we've seen Jordan Morris get hot. We've seen a little bit more productivity in the attack. The defensively is really where I have the most concerns with Seattle.
Honestly, I think they should switch their formation to a 3-5-2, at least for the game next week against LAFC when they're playing for the right to go to the U.S. Open Cup final. Because, first of all, none of their wingers are beating anybody off the dribble, so that defeats the purpose of having wingers. Second of all, to your point, they're getting beat over the top a lot. Add another center back there, maybe handle a front three a little bit better. We could see it this weekend even against Minnesota United.
Do you think Schmetzer would do that?
I mean, he did it for an entire season back in 2021. I don't think it's off the table. It has been a little bit late coming, though, because they just got thumped in the Leagues Cup.
Portland Timbers taking on St. Louis City.
Yeah, our number for Portland, that's 8.94. That's how many more passes per game Evander is completing in 2024 than what he did in 2023. That puts him in the 90th percentile overall among all attacking midfielders. And he's not just getting more touches just because. He's connecting high-value passes. This is passes into the final third, into the box, and expected assists are all way up over what he was doing in 2023. The biggest jump, though, is through balls per 90. He's hitting about 3 times as many in 2024 under Phil Neville. When he drops deep and gets on the ball, those wingers, center forward Felipe Mora, they all know to burst into space. He has been wonderful this year. We are not sure he's going to play this weekend because he came off hurt in the Leagues Cup.
Yeah, I'm buying this one. And I remember earlier in the year, Phil Neville was saying, hey, this is an MVP. And I was on the show with everybody and saying, I'm not quite so sure if I'm buying that one from Phil Neville. But
I believe it was best number 10 in the league.
Was that what it was? Yeah.
Conference
Guys,
slash
Lionel Messi's still in the league, so no, it's an incorrect assertion, but he's been really good.
But I see why he would say that, because that's how important he is to this team, and we saw them really tank in the Leagues Cup without him when he went out injured early on to St. Louis. So they have to get him back into this team. He makes all these players around them tick, 3 players on the side with 10+ goals, but that doesn't happen without Evander pulling the strings.
Yeah, and we just heard you guys talking in the last segment about like who has the best attack in the league. Nobody mentioned Portland. They're under the radar, but if you look at their goals per game, as long as Evander's out there, they're as good as anybody outside of Miami. It's a really good team.
St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis, not yet a really good team, but our number is 14. That's the number of passes. Edouard Leuven, playing deeper as a number 8, completed its new signing, Marcel Hartel, in what ultimately became a promising loss to Club America in the Leagues Cup. They lost 4-2, St. Louis did. 11 of those 14 passes were progressive, most of them up the left side and into the final third, where Hartel is at his best as a chance creator, and only 1 of the 14 was a long ball. That's significant because St. Louis, under previous manager Bradley Carnell, hit the second most long balls in the league. So I think we're starting to see a new game model take shape with this team, and I think it's largely going to be built around the ability of these 2 guys to get on the ball and actually keep it on the ground for a little bit instead of cranking everything up to 1,000 miles an hour.
I love this one. I'm buying this one. Jill, opening up the wallet, whatever I got left, is going on this one. And St. Louis, honestly, I think the stock is high for this team. I did 2 of their matches in Leagues Cup, and yes, they brought in Toyshirt. Yes, they brought in Hartzell. Betcher has been a nice under-the-radar signing, but the best player, the most important player on this team is Leuven, and we saw it in Leagues Cup. He gave Club America everything they could handle, and they had the lead in the second half for a team that has only won 3 matches in the regular season before the firing of their manager. Now they've really turned things around with these new additions, and then Hackworth has to get credit for dropping him a bit deeper. If you think of the way Evander drops and facilitates the attack, that's exactly what we see from Leuven as well. So I really like what's happening in St. Louis. They've built a nice little foundation in a short time with new players in Leagues Cup. We saw last year, I felt they didn't take Leagues Cup seriously and really tanked. I think they can use Leagues Cup as a turning point to try and climb their way up in the league.
2 clubs on the outside looking in, Nashville SC and Austin.
Yeah, our number for Nashville is 47. That's a number of direct attacks, counters, fast breaks, things of that sort. Nashville have generated this year, which is just 26th in the league. They were tied for 16th in 2023, and they were 13th in 2022. And that inability to get out into transition has put more pressure on them to build chances via possession. And woo boy, has that not been good for this team. They are stuck in the mud, and honestly, I don't really see a way for them to get unstuck given the personnel on hand.
So I got to ask you about that, because I'm unsure on this one, because BJ Callahan's so new to this team, new manager coming in and trying to imprint himself. But when you say they're stuck in the mud, they still have Hani Mukhtar, they have Schaffelberg, they have some pieces at least that can get out in transition. So why are you seeing them not being able to find success with that?
Because I don't think they have any real ball progressors through midfield. Anibal Godoy has hit probably his expiration date. Our good friend Dax McCarty, he was so key to everything they did the first 4 or 5 years that they were in the league, and including in that massive Leagues Cup run last year. But that was Dax's last hurrah, and they haven't been able to replace him. And if you look at this roster, it's filled with veterans on big numbers. So guys who are not really tradable and don't really have that sort of skill set that we saw Dax and prime Anibal Godoy. And they went out and they got a U22 signing in the window, and Patrick Yazbek, he's a young 20-ish-year-old Australian kid. He has struggled in his first couple of appearances for Nashville. So I look at this roster, and I don't think that there's anyone on it right now who could do the sort of things in terms of tilting the field that we saw from the best versions of Nashville over the past 4 or 5 years. Are you ready to buy this yet, Kayla?
I like
Did
this.
I make a sale?
This is a good. You got to earn your sale here. So yeah, I'll buy this one from Doyle in this case.
So it's on the front office.
Yeah, it's on the front office, absolutely.
But
What
you got to
about-
give time to Callahan, I think. I think we
Of
got
course.
to
Absolutely. Yeah, like they're going to be an interesting team to watch, but then it's going to be on Mike Jacobs, the general manager, chief soccer officer this winter, to give BJ Callahan some new tools for 2025.
What about Austin?
Austin, plus 8.74. That's their goal differential above expected, which is to say that they're about 9 goals better than they should be this year. And this is a team that is still outside the playoffs in 10th place with a -9 actual goal differential. That number, if they had an average goalkeeper, would be -18. Brad Stuver, man, there's nothing fancy about him. He is a throwback keeper who's just excellent at his number one job, which is to keep the ball out of the damn net.
I am buying Brad Stuver, no doubt about it.
How can you not?
But I'm selling this stat on overperforming their XG because I've been watching Austin, and I'm seeing some promising signs that they're trending in the right direction. And you don't have to look further than Leagues Cup. They went and beat Pumas. They beat Monterrey. Those are 2 giants in Liga MX. And even in league play.
They beat those teams because they put everybody behind the ball, and they said, Brad Stuver, please save us.
Well, I don't care how you beat any of these monsters from Liga MX. Do it again and continue to see what you can get from that. I see some young pieces. I think Wolf has been good. Perea has been good coming in. Alex Ring, it looks like he's found a sort of second new life there. And so you've added some new pieces with Bukhari, Svatak, and Dessler as well.
They're going to make the playoffs?
I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. I'd probably put them... I'm just going to sell. I'm buying them in the playoffs. Let's go, Austin.
Wow.
I like the way they're going. I like the
take.
way that they're trending. You beat Monterrey, you beat Pumas. You're getting a buy for me.
I'm going to go left here. I would never want to rob you of this. Who's winning MLS Cup? Because we're talking about it in the next segment.
You know what? Just as I was getting bold with my takes,
Yeah.
I'm going Miami. Sorry, with Lionel Messi, they're already going to potentially in the driver's seat, I think, for the Supporter Shield. I think they could end up with both trophies.
Hot take of the season, Kalen Carr's got Inter Miami winning the Supporter Shield and MLS Cup. As promised, let's have a little bit of fun before we say goodbye. So we got to bring back in these guys, Sasha and Brad. And it is almost time to say goodbye to sweet summer, which means school is back, Doyle. And on that note, we're going to do some superlatives. You know, okay.
Wow.
Chill, you're not going to read my sign first? I got the first
No,
answer.
I'm not reading that. That is.
Good afternoon to you, Sasha, too.
That is so inappropriate for the start of our segment. Sasha, you get an F. So if you see where we're going, we're doing a little bit of a school theme. We're handing out superlatives, who has won and lost what up until this point in the MLS season. With the secondary transfer window now closed, guys, who is the biggest loser?
Ooh.
Who lost the summer transfer window? And no, the answer is not BWP.
It's always BWP.
Sasha, it's got Vancouver. Bradley Wright Phillips with the Chicago Fire. Doyle with the New York Red Bulls. Explain yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. This is going to be a bit of a trigger warning for you, but I look at this Red Bulls team. They play great defense. They have a plus 11 goal differential. They've only lost 4 times all year long. They have 11 draws. And we saw it happen in the Leagues Cup. They are a piece away in attack. It's just like when you guys were running the show for them so many years, year after year after year. You guys were one piece away from being MLS Cup challengers, maybe even MLS Cup winners. They have an open DP slot. They could have used another U22 slot if they wanted to and added a big name forward or a high upside young forward or any kind of forward at all, besides Dante Van Zier, who they've had for 2 years now and who has shown that he is manifestly not it. And so now we go into another stretch run with the Red Bulls. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. They're going to get to the playoffs. They're going to get eliminated because they don't have enough firepower. The fans are sick of it.
I would hate for you to be right. Go on, Sasha.
I can't agree more. And I'm going in a similar vein with the Vancouver Whitecaps. They're in 5th in the West. They went out in the transfer market and did nothing. So they're just happy to be a playoff team. They're not going to win anything this season. They have open spots to add another player into the attack. They're maybe 1 or 2 pieces away from actually challenging for the West. And they did nothing in the transfer market. That's why they're losers for me.
And for me, the Chicago Fire. I know they're not, in any sort of playoff race, title race. But just as a football fan, if I'm a fan of Chicago Fire, I want to see ambition. I've seen none here. You get rid of Shaqiri, which I think was a great move. Now he's off the wage bill. Now you have some space on the roster, and you bring no one in. I don't know if I'm a fan. Why am I going? I'm not seeing any ambition from Chicago Fire, and I think they didn't take advantage of this transfer window.
All right, so let's do biggest transfer window winner. Who won the transfer window? Who's looking real good now on the stretch run of the season? Get to those whiteboards, guys. And
Give me a second.
yeah, go for it.
I got to
Go for
check
it.
Brad's spelling. Every time.
All right, Sasha Kleshtin with Charlotte. Matt Doyle with Bradley Wright
Chicago
Phillips'
Fire.
losers, the Chicago Fire, and FC Cincinnati. Explain yourself, Doyle.
Who's going?
For all the reasons Brad said, they got rid of Shaqiri, and then they didn't do anything else. They also got rid of George Heitz, the GM for the past 4 years, who has dug the Fire into one of the deepest holes in the league. Signing after signing after signing, he has shown ambition. He has not shown any foresight or ability to fit the pieces together, and he's gone in the winter. Finally, that is the news Chicago Fire fans had been waiting to get. So Shaqiri's gone as well. And the best news of all is he didn't make one last signing to saddle them with a terrible DP contract for the next 3 or 4 years. So whoever takes over in the winter, and by the way, put all your money on that being Greg Berhalter, whoever takes over in the winter is going to get to reconstruct the Fire roster with a couple of good players like Hugo Kuipers up top, Brian Gutierrez, Chris Brady, Kellen Acosta. But they're not going to be saddled with a cadre of underperforming DPs. This was the best summer the Chicago Fire have had in almost a decade. The fans are ecstatic. They finally see a light at the end of the tunnel coming in 2025.
Woo, that is
We'll
spicy.
see how that looks in the next game for them. But I like what you did. I've got Cincinnati, just because looking at Cincy throughout the season, when they got to that middle part of the season, their defensive injuries to Matt Miazga, I think getting Chidozie Awaziem was a very big signing. I now have hope for them again to be in the Supporters' Shield race. Also, Giacchini scored a lot of goals for St. Louis. He's a player they need in the attacking third. I don't think they've been strong enough or dangerous enough in that 9 spot. And I think they've had a really underrated transfer window.
All right, I got to go with Charlotte on this one. I think Charlotte really leveled themselves up from a playoff team to now a playoff contender in the East. By adding Tim Ream at the back, we'll see if he comes in and he's a starter right away or if he has to work himself into the lineup. They got rid of Breck de Jager and replaced him with DP number 10 from Spain, Pep Biel. I think they searched and found the pieces that they wanted. Maybe not exact pieces that they wanted. They were in for Miguel Almiron. That would have been massive. They end up getting something that lasts them until the end of the season and I think makes them a little bit better towards the playoffs.
Tim Ream coming from Fulham. So on that note, what was the best under-the-radar signing by an MLS team in the secondary transfer window? Get to work, please. We saw some movers and shakers. We saw some big names come through like Marco Royce. But I know that's not going to qualify for under-the-radar. So, Brad, who you got?
I've got the Columbus Crew.
Do you have
It's a player,
Do you
Brad.
have a player for the
Oh,
Columbus
sorry,
Crew?
my bad. Sorry. DeJuan Jones for Columbus Crew. My bad. Misread that at the bottom there. No, I think Columbus Crew as a side, when you look at them, they don't need much. They don't need strengthening in many areas. But to have DeJuan Jones come into this side, the impact he's already had, scoring a goal on his debut, getting a winning penalty in the Leagues Cup. Now you look at their 4 wingbacks in Alston, Farsi, now DeJuan Jones, Yao Yaboa. That is very strong. Just added in the attack, I think it's a brilliant under-the-radar signing.
Perfect.
Can't
DeJuan
argue
Jones
with
coming
much
from New
there.
England. Yeah, go ahead, Sash.
I can't argue with him much. I like the DeJuan Jones signing a lot in Columbus as well, but I think it's Nico Giacchini going to FC Cincinnati. He's a proven young goal scorer in MLS who can step in and be that physical presence up front for Cincinnati that they haven't had since Brandon Vasquez left. So he should come in, and I think he'll start right away as the number 9. The most important thing, though, is they went out for some big targets. They didn't get them, and at the last minute, they were able to get Giacchini, who's just on loan until the end of the season, and I think they'll revisit in January ready to spend some big money.
Good shots by these guys. I picked Lawrence Anali for the Houston Dynamo, who they got on a U22 deal. The Dynamo, we've been saying for the past year, if they get a goal scorer up top and then they get a dynamic left winger, a guy who could beat guys off the dribble and turn some of that possession that they have into penetration and goals, they could be as good as anybody. And what we've seen from Anali so far, who nobody knew of, right? This is a guy that they got from a smallish team in the Polish league. They went down the list and found this guy, and he has been superb through just a couple of games. I can't wait for the stretch run, see this team get on the field this weekend.
Speaking of the stretch run, who is going to make the stretch run and make the postseason? What team in MLS, not player Brad, what team is going to flip their fortunes? What MLS club will flip their fortunes? What you got, Doyle?
I have St. Louis City. And I'm not sure that they can climb above the playoff line. I don't think they're going to go from second to last to ninth. Like they're 10 points back. It's a lot to do in 9 games. But based upon what we saw of them, these new guys that they brought in during the summer window, they're a much better team. They took Portland apart. I thought they played really well against Club America, eventually losing 4-2. 5 new starters, potentially 2 center backs and Horn, and of course Henry Kessler from the Revs. Then it's Hartzell and Teutscher, the German attackers, and then Simon Betcher up top. And look, Simon Betcher does not have a big profile, but he has been better in about 4 games for St. Louis than Klaus has been all season long. And all this is happening within the context of John Hackworth changing the game model for this team. And we've seen it in the numbers a little bit too. They're more comfortable with the ball. They have guys who play together. It's not all long ball, second ball, go. So I like what St. Louis has done a lot. I think they're much better situated to go into 2025 and be a really competitive team, because what they've been the first 2/3 of 2024 was not very good.
But they'll need 10 points to do it. Sash, who you got?
From one Leagues Cup team that made us believe to another one, it's Philadelphia. Philly has made us believe. Listen, they're back to the old Philly. Andre Blake is playing at a massive level again that we're used to seeing from Andre Blake, keeping teams in games. They've gone on this amazing run in Leagues Cup, made it to the semifinals. So we're going to see Philly in the last third of the season push themselves from outside the playoffs right now into the playoffs.
Brad,
Okay.
who you got now that you went and changed up your pick?
I'll change it. Doyle, I like your one. I'm a believer in St. Louis too. Sasha, I'm unhappy with your one just because we saw Philly already make this resurgence. They're unbeaten 5 games before Leagues Cup. We saw this. That's already happened. In Leagues Cup, yes, they had some momentum. They looked good, but that was inevitable from seeing how they left the MLS regular season. I'm going to go, and it's a quick one because I just have to think of a team I like and enjoy and want to do well, is FC Dallas. I think Dallas with Peter Musa up top, Ferreira coming back from injury. They have a great defender in Tafara. I think they're only 3 points off of the playoffs. That's a team for me with this rest out of the Leagues Cup that can do well and make a decent run at playoffs.
All right, Sasha, really going out on a limb there with the Philadelphia Union. 1 point.
Easy
out of the
pickings. Easy
playoffs.
pickings.
All right, real
You
quick.
sure about that?
Who is our MLS Cup winner?
Oh.
Doyle says Messi.
Yeah, I picked Miami at the start of the year. They've done it all year long, even with Messi injured, and now he's going to be healthy down the stretch into the playoffs. Messi's going to win MLS Cup.
LAFC for Sasha question.
LAFC, I see a rematch of MLS Cup and LAFC getting their revenge. I think the addition of Olivier Giroud is massive. Denny Bouanga is only getting better and stronger as the season goes on. I think in the playoffs, nobody will be able to stop their attack.
You guys know I like to sit on the fence, and I just got a real comfortable chair on that fence. So a nice little cushion. Now, honestly, I'm going to say the Crew. I just think the Crew, for me, when I watch them play on their best day, they're better than anyone. And if they'll get to the final, they'll be playing at home. I think they beat anyone. But a real tough game for Inter Miami tomorrow. I mean, come the weekend, and then we'll see. That's when I'll make my choice, because they play Cincinnati. Whatever happens there, then we're looking at a different.
Brad, you
different
coward.
He's going
You have to
rogue.
make. Oh, come on.
No
I need to
white-
see how
no
Inter Miami
whiteboard,
look. I need to
no
see how they look.
whiteboard. You didn't even write it down. Now you're telling us that you're going to make a real pick over the weekend.
It's there. Trust me, it's there. I just like the fence.
All right, well, that does it for This is MLS. We will see you next week. And Brad, you better be bringing that answer. And your whiteboard.